Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to read a little bit of something about my guest, and then I will tell you who my guest is and who I am. Born in Chicago, Illinois, raised in New London, Connecticut, and Boston, Massachusetts, where he has always made his home from then until now. After the Vietnam War, he returned to Boston and pursued his career as an artist. He received his BFA and honorary MFA from the Mass College of Art. His work has been featured in films such as The Ghost, which is one of my favorite movies, and The Preacher's Wife, among others. TV programs such as The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and The Cosby Show, which propelled his work into mainstream market. His work also exhibited to raise money in excess of $75,000 for the Andre Agassi Foundation and Charter School. Notable collectors such as Bishop Desmond Tutu, Maya Angelou, Samuel L. Jackson, Morgan Freeman, just to name a few. His work has been published in Ebony, Essence, Architectural Digest, and the 100 Boston Painters. He's considered to be Boston Banner and the Boston Globe one of our most talented native sons, and I agree with that. He makes vibrantly colored, multi-layered, shimmering drawings and paintings laced with African themes from the Boston Globe. He founded the Color Circle Art Publishing, which is dedicated to the perpetuation of the African diaspora. His work adorns the halls of the Smithsonian Institute. In 1996, he was commissioned to create a piece for the Olympic Games, and in 1998, he designed the World Cup poster. In 1997, he was awarded the U.S. Sports Academy Artist of the Year Award. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce my guest, Mr. Paul Goodnight. Good afternoon, Paul.
Wow, good afternoon. It's quite impressive if I do say so myself.
I am so
Thank you.
Honored that you are here with me today.
Well, I am the most appreciative to be here, believe me. I knew we were going to do it sooner or later.
I did too, you know, because we're always talking about it.
Yeah.
And you would tell me, when you gonna call me? And I said, I'm gonna get there. But you know, what made it happen was when Monica came to my house and told me that she had been down to your studio, and she told you that she does my hair.
Yeah.
And you told her, oh yeah, that little woman, she keeps telling me she's going to call me. And I said, yeah, I know. So it was right then and there, I said, I have to do it right now.
Right time, right place.
That's true.
Yeah, nothing's by accident.
No, it's not.
It's true.
There's so much I want to ask about you, and my little opening of you, I know was a lot, but I've known you a long time. Mm-hmm. But when I went through all these different series of things where you did different interviews, I was like, wow, there's stuff that I didn't know about you. Back in, I think it was in 2017, the Roxbury Film Festival, there was an African guy who did a documentary on you. Samuel Salemu, I think his name? Dennis Salemu. He, and you came and you were there on the stage, and you guys were having this conversation.
Yeah.
And I took so many notes from that conversation, and I kept saying, when I finally get to have this interview, I will use these notes for this interview.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, like you said, sometimes things happen and sometimes they don't, but they didn't, because I couldn't find the notes.
Unbelievable.
I could not find the notes at all. But I want to begin with a question, which is, how do you define your style of art?
It's a good question. I think the best way is that I do representational art. It means I represent things from a venue of what my journey has been. So representational art is sort of a vague term. It means that I don't do realistic art, but I don't do abstract either. It's a combination of both. So I represent whatever the situation that I've been in. I think the only place that I don't lie is through art. So I represent my feelings, whether it be political, religious, sensual, or any one of those genres. They're all in all of us. So I do that. And I think, it gives me a voice. I don't believe I had a voice. So the end of a paintbrush was my voice, or a pencil was my voice. And I think whenever you have a voice, you have a choice. And so many people have not been able to deal with the fact that they have a voice but don't have a forum to express it. And this is a forum, another one. So I thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you more than anything. Oh, you were talking about expressing yourself and having art as that venue, that way of expressing. Mm-hmm. You've taken your art across the country and across the world. Mm-hmm. Mm. Where do you find, I want to say more accepted, but actually what's more favorable to you? What is your favorite place that you've visited that has made you feel like you can express more of your art?
I lived in Haiti for about a year. And I met some incredible artists. And I've learned a lot about that country and what it is, although right now it's not the most favorable place to visit. But I learned a whole lot about myself, because I think when you're in another country, you don't speak the language, you don't know where you're going, so forth and so on. You have to depend on your own instincts. And after that year period of time, I learned a lot about Africa, because so close to Haiti is so close to Africa in terms of its culture. And then I also loved Brazil. In Brazil, I lived there for about 5 months. And I found out a lot about the reality of being in another place. You find more about yourself in a climate where you really don't know the language, the custom, the culture, and so forth and so on. So you're learning constantly. So you're learning, how similar we are and how different we are. Where family is very, very important in countries like that. Where here, the individual is very important, which is strange to me, because I always think that family is always the nucleus of our growth.
Yes, because I know growing up in Roxbury, because I'm a first-generation Bostonian. Mm-hmm. My parents came from the South. My mom and my grandparents came from the South in 1941. Yeah. So I'm a first Bostonian.
Okay.
And as I was growing up, even the drunks looked out for you.
Yes, they did.
They would tell you, "What are you doing out here? Go home."
Yeah.
Now we know your mother. Now where are you going? And it's family.
It is. I mean, the people.
And it's the nucleus.
Yep.
Community.
The folks on the porch would look out for you. Paul came home late that night. I saw that boy.
See? Okay. So you know.
So it was a nucleus. I think family was very, very important. Now, I think because of technology and a couple of other things, the individual is very important. And I think that needs to shift again. Yeah.
I agree. It does need to shift. Can you talk about the importance of investing in African American art?
I think you're talking about investing in a product of yourself.
Okay.
It's the same thing as music or any other art form. music, dance, the movies, literary. The investment that you're making in yourself, because you want to see when you go home in something that reflects you, something that you know something about. It's the same way you do when you turn on the whatever you're playing. In music, you want to hear something that you relate to. So it's about a relationship. That's the true investment. The other investments are collectors and investors who are looking at that as a commerce commodity.
Yes.
But this, I think, the true person who loves to see when they come home a reflection of themselves. And that's the simple form.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And because you've said reflection and wanting to see, something of yourself, you've answered my next question.
Oh God!
So I do not have to answer that. What did you find to be? I'm hoping I'm using the right word. The pinnacle of the pinnacle of your career, and tell me what goes into a Paul Goodnight masterpiece.
The pinnacle of my career, I don't know what that means.
Means
the height?
What was the height of your career?
Of my career? I don't know. I always think that I'm still plateauing. Okay. I'm not, I don't think there is any higher point. I don't think there's any lower point. I think you need to recognize that what you're doing, there's an old saying that John Biggers gave me. He says, your job is what you get paid for.
Yes.
But your calling is what you're made for. And that way, you don't see yourself on any hierarchy.
Yes.
You see yourself as continually plateauing, going up and up and up, and learning. I always say that your best teacher is your last painting, and or your last dance. Your best teacher is the thing that you do that made your calling become a part of you. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Your calling is the gift that you're giving in order to sustain yourself in a number of different ways. And for me, it's a way of telling the truth.
All right. A very enlightening answer, if I do say so myself. You've done many, I want to back up a little bit to the statement that I made when we opened up the show about you doing, being commissioned to do certain things. How did you originally get the commission for the Olympics?
Good question. I have no idea. That was so long ago. Did I submit something? I think I did, because I did the Olympics twice.
Yes.
The second time, I know I submitted something. The first time, I had to. I believe I did. And I got a call back, and they said, would you be doing, we will give you X amount of dollars, because there's a lot of people doing.
Okay.
So
yes.
Fortunately, mine was selected, and the rest was history. I couldn't believe it. And of course, the Olympics was very generous in what they give you, as well as a seat at the table to go and see the Olympics. And I took my daughter, which was great. And there was a lot of perks to that. And I just went with it. I was kind of surprised all the way through the Olympics and the events and all of the meeting some of the athletes and so forth and so on. It was good. And they gave me a gold medal.
Oh, they did.
It was so funny because you talk to some of the Olympic athletes. They go, "Where did you get it?" It's drawing.
There you go. Around all your commissions, what was your most, I want to say not exhilarating, but what was the most heartfelt commission that you've done?
The most heartfelt commission that I've done?
Yes.
I don't know. I really, I don't have a real answer for that. I don't know. I mean, I've done quite a few. I think all of them are in the same vein that you put your heart into it. So there wasn't anything that was that stands out. I can tell you one of the first ones that I'd done, which really kind of started the ball rolling, is I did the album cover for Kool and the Gang.
That was you?
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
And it was called Spirit of the Boogie.
Yep.
And of course, they went on to be Kool and the Gang. Yes. And that's when I realized that you can actually make money off of this stuff.
Yes, you
It
can.
really could. And I didn't know how commissions or I didn't know the business of the art.
There you go.
But I knew that this was very important because I used to remember when they used to have Tower Records over here.
Yes, I do.
I stood by the album of Kool and the Gang and said, "Oh, what do you think about this album?" And they go, "Oh, I like it." I said, "Oh, good. You should buy it."
See?
So that's the first commission the big commission that I really remember making a turn to my career, having a gradual growth.
Okay. When you go back in time and your history of being an artist, what came across your mind, your heart, that made you say, "I'm going to be an artist"?
I don't think I ever said I'm going to be an artist because it's always what I was.
Okay. How long did...
A lot of people confuse what they want and what they are and what
True.
they have. I never wanted to be an artist. I always
was an artist.
Yeah. But I always wanted to be something besides that. I always wanted to be a football player, I wanted to be a boxer, but I always was what I was, and that became my voice. So when you start eliminating those things that you don't do that well,
True.
and you realize that the one thing that came easy for me was art. Life was hard, but art was really my salvation, my place to go to. So yeah, I think that's what I always am, and I am that now.
Yes, you are. I don't think you could be anything else but an artist.
Yeah, like I said, I think a lot
I've known you as an artist. I met you as an artist.
As an artist. I think a lot of people pay too much attention to what they want, not enough attention to what they have.
Okay. Oh, now it makes me want to think.
What?
It does. It makes me want to think because you're talking about people not paying attention to what they have instead of what they want. And there are certain parts of my life that I have that I've not used, and
Exactly.
people have fought about me not doing what I have.
Yeah, I mean, it's once you find that's your niche, you're not looking for a job. You already have one. You're not looking for something. You have it, and then you just look. The opportunities sometimes just fall in your lap, and you take advantage of those opportunities. And I always thought that was one of the things that I had to learn about. What I wanted.
Okay.
And what I have.
Well, we've been having this great discussion, and I've got, the Chronicle did an interview with you, and we're going to look at a little bit of that because I went through the whole thing and I thought it was amazing.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I really did. So I want my audience out there to watch this clip that we have from Chronicle on Paul Goodnight and his work. And then you all can get a little bit more of what I've learned and what I know of him.
Are you doing that now?
We're getting ready to do it very shortly.
Basically what you're made up of, you know, your environment. My environment is black, my culture is black, my people are the central reason why I create. It was no longer for myself, it was for a larger body of people.
In the ensuing years, Goodnight's reputation grew. His art was featured on TV shows including The Cosby Show and Seinfeld, and in movies like Gone Baby Gone. Celebrity collectors include Morgan Freeman, Whoopi Goldberg, and Samuel Jackson, among others. Today, Goodnight remains prolific. Wearing his trademark overalls, he draws every day and teaches figure drawing at the Museum of Fine Arts 3 times a week.
I'm production, she's management.
He credits his family, especially wife Bernice Robinson, with much of his success.
They are really the rock of what I do.
Goodnight's global travels also influence his work and his politics. He is reluctant to call himself an activist, instead saying he wants to build awareness. In 2012, he visited Sierra Leone and afterward raised money to bring survivors of the decade-long civil war there to the U.S.
I was able to ask the amputees to draw something. If they didn't want to draw their experience, that was fine too, because I understood what war does. It doesn't always make you extroverted or want to talk about that situation. But they did.
Other recent work is inspired by news and social justice, including In the Crosshairs and Roxbury Crossing, which addresses gentrification. At age 69, Goodnight has faith in 3 truths about the arc of an artist's life: fire, function, and foundation.
Fire is usually the burning young people who want to learn, and they test you a lot. Function is where I think I am at this point. It's the teacher who wants to learn. You're still learning, and at the same time, you're teaching what you've learned. You have to give it back. It goes through you. It doesn't belong to you. And foundation is the elder, who is the wisdom, who finds the teacher that he can go impart his wisdom to and make sure that it's being passed on.
But Goodnight hopes ultimately his true legacy is a more personal one.
Me, the person, would like to be remembered as somebody who probably solved more problems than I created.
Beautiful art, beautiful words. Paul Goodnight's work appeared on an episode of the 80s sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and the next day he was deluged with orders for prints.
Paul Goodnight, my esteemed friend and guest for today, and we've been having a great conversation, and I'm learning so much from you.
Really?
Yeah, you know what I'm want to ask, well, not ask about. You did a class at
You were there.
that class. Yes, I was
were
there. Yes, I was there. Matter of fact, I still have my drawing.
Do you really?
Yes, I do. And every now and then I look and I say, I don't like it. I need to go back to another class with Paul so I can get it right. But no. So that brings me to my next question that I want to ask you is, do you always draw before you go to canvas?
Yes, I was taught that. Paul Ray Healy was my teacher. And fortunately, I had a very good teacher. I had very good mentorship. I had great advocates, you know, Bernice being one of the more special ones.
Yes.
And I realized one thing that was missing is that I needed colleagues. I needed artists to, you know, talk about what we're doing. And you know, and to spin off of each other. And really, you know, to keep that momentum going. So, you know, like artists would say, wow, what are you doing? And the reality is I'm doing what you're doing. I just need, you know, to get some input, because I think that some art is really worth shaping my own art into. There's 3 things that I do when I develop a piece of artwork. 3 things that I think I should have in that piece.
Okay.
1, I think the art has to move you. Second one, I think you have to challenge yourself.
Okay.
And the third one, you have to be entertained.
Really?
Right. I think the
Explain.
challenging part is really the crux of it, you know, no matter what the subject matter is.
Yes.
You know, challenging yourself to do something a little different, do something a little more, to look at what you're doing and say, can I do something a little larger? Can I grow?
Okay.
You know,
Can
the
I
idea
grow?
is about evolving. You know, and
Yes.
anything that you do should always look for the
Right.
evolution of what you are doing at this particular time. That's the challenge. And the challenge could be in the subject matter itself. You know, because you live in a country or a city or a neighborhood that probably has some things that you don't like to see, and you have to address that.
Okay.
You know, and there's an old saying that, you know, he who controls the image controls the mind.
Mind. I've heard
I look
that.
at the Vatican, and I see all of the frescoes and the Sistine Chapels and
Yes.
all of that.
Ooh.
And it gave the Catholic Church, the Apostolic Church, the highest form of religion, which we know it's not.
Right.
But because of the imagery,
They
you
have
know,
that.
we're talking about the Pope being, you know, this Pope Pius, this person. He's simply another a subject from God. And he's not the be-all and the end-all. He has a church that was developed through the Medici family, through the artists. The Medici family was bankers.
Okay.
And they paid these artists to come to Italy and paint these frescoes and sculptures and stuff like that in order to make the Catholic Church the highest form of worship.
Oh.
And it's not.
okay.
And of course, we know it's not
Right.
because the highest form of worship is worship.
Worship.
And so, so we realized what the imagery did to the people around them. They believed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we see now imagery is now like of George Floyd and those kinds of people,
Yeah.
and to keep that in our mind. We're look at all the murals that have just come up in the last
year
or two.
Yes.
About our beauty, our culture, our religion, our spiritual beliefs. All of these young people with the airbrushes are doing some incredible stuff.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm saying that imagery sticks with you. Because you see it, you walk by, you see it, go, wow, you feel proud of it. And it really has a way of uplifting the neighborhood.
It does. It does. You know, there are times that I may be walking, I'm riding the bus and I'm going somewhere and I'm going through, coming around and going through the square, Nubian Square, and going down Washington Street, and my eye always catches that mural that was done of you.
Oh, yeah.
And the little, because you're on one side,
And the little
the
girl's
little
in
boy,
there.
is it a little girl?
The little girl. It's actually pro-black who did it with Mark A27. Pro-black, it's his daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it's sort of like me passing the baton.
Baton, yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you, how did you feel about that, being done?
Had
I mean,
two feelings. You
two
know.
feelings?
I didn't want to be out there like that. Because no longer can I get in trouble.
okay.
But I think it's a kind of a tribute piece
Yeah.
of respect.
Yes.
And
And that's what I saw.
And I think with Pro-Black, what he did, along with Mark A27, was saying, hey, this is how they are living through the things that I have done. And I think it's
So
an
in a
awful,
way
it's an
you've-
awful big tribute, but the human person in me just says, well, okay, that's nice. I love it. You know, I like the idea of it. But I also don't want that to get in the way of who I really am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who I really am is not that
huge.
Yeah, yeah. But the idea of passing the baton is really important.
Yeah. Do you find that have any of your students that you've taught come back to say, hey, Mr. Goodnight, this is what I'm doing now with what you've taught me, and have they shown you any of their pieces and what your thoughts on them?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they still come back. You know, they said that because I was teaching. You know, and if you're really ain't going to teach, teach.
Right.
If you're really going to teach, you better learn. So I get it. I teach it a different way. I don't teach it.
The mainstream.
Yeah,
no, you don't.
Well, you saw it. I draw on a person and that kind of stuff. So you kind of make it interesting, and you make it in a way that they can remember. Yeah, and that the form and the plane really has a lot to do. And I teach figure drawing, so the form and the plane really has a lot to do with the mechanics of how they both fit into each other.
Have you always taught? Have you always done figure drawing and painting?
I found that was what I liked to do.
Okay.
So, but I was afraid of teaching because I had a speech impediment, a real bad speech impediment.
Okay.
But Paul Healy, when he, I think he had an attack, a heart attack, and his wife said, "You're going to have to take over the class." Why?
Paul said, "What?
You got
not doing that.
You got to be kidding." I said, I can hardly talk. I said, "How am I going to teach?" And he goes, "You'll teach." He said, "You've been under the tutelage of Paul Healy for 6 years." I said, "Oh yeah." I told Paul that I said, "I've been here for 6 years under you." And he goes, yeah, one slow learner, brother. I said, what? I thought you were going to give me a compliment. That was who he was.
And that was his compliment.
He had a dry sense of humor, and you loved him. So he said, 6 years, you should have learned something.
Okay.
I said, but I can't stand in front of a class and just talk. I said, you can.
But you were so calm and so, moving about and, and talking to the different, the different folks that were in the class.
Yeah.
And you were so right on with what you had to say and how you made things come about and that.
I like to stay focused, and
Yes.
I like to be, like I said, entertainment is part of teaching. Mm-hmm. You have to have something that makes you not make the subject not boring.
Well, yes.
Because the figure drawing is really kind of a geometry of planes and forms.
Right.
But how do you impart that to somebody who doesn't really get it, but eventually you do. You recognize what muscles do. You recognize what the skeleton does. But you do it in a way where they can see it. So when I had the model up there, I drew on the model. I drew on what's in there. So I drew the same thing, but I just did the plane and the form, and that made it simpler. It made it simpler to understand. Not to just, like anything, it takes practice, and the more you practice it, the more it becomes part of you. Okay. So that's what I did like teaching, but I realized my role now is a little broader than just teaching. Because I'm still teaching, doing the mentorship with different students.
Oh, okay.
And I like that.
Wonderful.
Because now it's a one-on-one. It's not a group.
Okay. What was it like having, or what is it still like having John Biggers as a mentor? I know that.
Powerful question. I believe that John was sent to me through some, I hate to use the word spiritual entity because then it sounds too ethereal, but nothing's by accident.
Right. Well, what did you tell me at the beginning of the show? Nothing's by accident.
Yeah. So John, I met him in Africa.
Okay.
And he told me, I remember him saying, I didn't know who he was. And I was drawing, you know, because I was with a group of different artists who was drawing. I was drawing these Wolof people because I found Wolof, that's the first time I ever saw a real black, blue person.
Oh, wow.
And then realizing what black is really beautiful. And these people had teeth with shiny, shimmering white, and they were dark as and blue as black, and the garments they wore were so colorful. And I said, I got to draw this. And John came up behind me, goes, hey, man. I said, hey, how you doing? He goes, so you think you're an artist? I said, yeah. He said, you ain't no artist. And he walked off. And I can't say the words that I've...
Okay, don't.
But I called him a couple of selective names that I've learned over the years. And the next day, I was there again. I saw him coming this time, so I turned my back on him. And he said, hey. I said, wait a minute, man, what you want? He goes, I said, you was not an artist yesterday. I said, yeah. He said, you're an image maker.
That's where it came from.
So he lifted me up. No, he put me down, and then he lifted me
you up.
Yes. And when he said I was an image maker, that's what I wrote with. And the next thing you know, I was down there, you know, down by Slade's. And he go, hey, man, here's that artist. I said, no, man, I'm an image maker. And he goes, an image maker? You know how the boys from Slade's,
yes,
they'll
don't
talk to you. Say, hey, everybody's an image maker, brother. What's the big deal?
Yep.
What kind of image you trying to make is what's important. I said, oh, snap. And so I called John. I said, you said I was an image maker. He goes, yeah, I did. I said, everybody's an image maker. It depends on what kind of image you make. He said, now I can teach you.
Oh.
Opens up.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
he
so
said, now
having John Biggers to make me understand the power of imagery to myself as well as, you know, to the rest. Look at the images that they did of Trump. You know, not good.
No.
Not always good.
Right.
But he created this image that has almost divided this country.
Thank you. Almost.
You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
when you're seeing these images, the reason why we are called image makers is because we have a job to do, and he gave me content. So he did, the group from Afro-Cobra did. One of the Afro-Cobra a family of I think it was 9 different people or more, I'm not sure. It's Napoleon Jones Anderson.
Well,
he's right here.
Yep.
Nelson Stevens died 2 weeks ago. Michael Harris died a week before that. These brothers and sisters painted and drew content in schools. They created images in schools. Elementary schools, and they would go in there and paint them walls up about your heroes, about who you are, about, you know, where you came from. These guys showed me the perfect reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because, you know, I was painting and drawing before that to get the attention of the opposite sex. Right.
Yes, Paul, you were.
Let's be real. But so that was my only intention, is to do that, and I don't know if it worked or not, to tell you the truth. But that's what I thought that, I mean, I had the ability to go ahead and draw it, so I said, let me draw your picture, girl, come on now, you know. But then content came. And then I realized that, I have now the responsibility to do something a little bit more than just trying to get
Creating our history.
Creating
our culture.
Creating our culture, yeah, that's a good one.
Creating our culture.
Yeah.
Every time I look at your work, that's what I see.
That's what I
Creating
try
our
and do,
culture.
because I think the idea, if we don't do it, who will?
Yes.
If I've done another piece with pro-black, Hakeem, Robert Stull, Larry Pierce, and a few others, Lamerty Frazier.
Okay.
We did a piece called the KKK Movement, or the KKK series.
Now.
And what it's about is kids killing kids. KKK, kids killing kids.
Yes.
And the idea was to draw the images from the problem that we see and the solution. So we always know what the problems are, but we have to deal with the solution. That's the content. Okay. Yeah, so
now, are you still working on that series?
We finished the series. We wanted to do a lot more with it. I met a guy, Jonathan, who's out in Chicago. Jonathan, I can't remember Jonathan's last name. He's doing a book on it.
Okay.
And he's going to add those pieces in there. But I wanted to make sure that we could sell these pieces. And part of the proceeds from the sales would go into those organizations that are trying to keep kids off the street.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Keith Motley is one.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the idea is that not only does your work represent something that, that we see every day, it also has a way of aiding an organization that is really doing something to keep kids off the street, build self-esteem.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, working, doing,
many things. Well,
Oh, there.
we need to talk about this. I don't know if we can get a good shot of this and we can zoom in on this. It's called We Move in Color. It's going to be it's going to be a dance.
It's a historical, the history of our journey here. Through dance.
Okay.
Through the spoken word, through poetry, and through the visuals.
Right.
Wyatt Jackson, I think that this is his brainstorm. Robbie is also an incredible writer. Was also one of the developers of this. And they asked me if I would be a part of it because it's really about the journey. And you do it in dance.
Like
Capoeira is one of the dances.
yes.
How it
I
came.
like that.
Huh?
I like that.
Yeah, and I think the pieces in the background are going to do this virtual reality. So they're going to be moving, and then the dancers are going to come out and they're going to do it. So you're really watching that journey through a number of artistic ways, nice. And it's very entertaining, but it has a lot of content to it.
Wow. Now that's going to be happening in October.
October 6th at the Strand.
Yes. Oh, that is
yeah, it's good. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And then I think it's going to go to Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And I think we're looking for it to travel even further.
I'd like to see it travel further.
I'd love to see it travel further.
Not only that, I just had a thought. Thinking about this, it would be wonderful if it could be a standard piece that happens within our community, like on a yearly basis. Because, you and I were talking earlier before we got started about that building.
Yes.
And space.
Yes.
Space that we could have of our own. You know, space that Black artists and our young people that are learning to be artists and learning their history through art.
Yeah.
That would, you know, that would be a perfect
Well,
place.
yeah, it's a good segue. I like, Elaine, you're a pretty sharp girl. The institution, I imagine,
Yes.
would be an institution of growth, education, bring commerce to the neighborhoods. So as a commercial vehicle, such as, say, silkscreen being one. Learning to draw images that you can put on your shirt, your hat, whatever it is. So silkscreen would be one. G. Clay's another way. Hakeem does these G. Clays. So learning how to do that, learning how to draw, learning how to do book design like Aqua Holmes does.
Yeah, like Aqua does.
Rob Stoll does the comic images.
Yes.
There's the sculpture, to learning how to do sculpture, coming in and doing sculpture. There's a myriad of images that you can think of. Learning how to do murals.
Yes.
These incredible murals with, I don't know how these guys do with this spray can and stuff
I
like
don't
that.
either.
I think it's miraculous. But to have in that institution on the walls every 2 years a new mural.
A new mural.
Because it's a learning process. And so all of that can be learned and in an institution. And of course, then they have the first floor as a showcase. So people can come in there and see the exhibits and that kind of thing. I think that is so necessary because there's a lot of people who would love to venture into this field. Photography is another one. We got a lot of good photographers that venture into this field who don't want to be basketball players or rappers and that kind of stuff, which is good, believe me. But I think that give them alternatives.
Yes.
Gives them another alternative and show them that alternative is not a starving artist thing, but it's a way of
impacting the community, impacting the youth.
Right. Even learning the business of art.
Okay.
You know, who are the kind of lawyers that you can read contracts and the consignments and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
You know, intellectual property lawyers are the best lawyers in the world for that. So you find that they know how to develop a contract for you in order that you can continue to work and for you to understand. So all of those things can make the community a lot stronger. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
so I think that institution would be good. And you're learning. You're learning to draw, you're learning to paint, you're learning all of these things. But you also say, listen, this is community-based. And the people who say, look, we need a silk screen for whatever event that they're doing.
Yes.
Boom, for T-shirts and that kind of stuff. Marquee pieces, how do you do that? What is it that we can do with our images that will make us a stronger community, will make us a vibrant community? Also empowers the artist that he or she is making a living off of this. You know, that he doesn't have to supplement their living. They can basically say, this is my living. So if you're going to teach it, you're going to teach what you really already know.
No. Nope, this is my favorite question.
Okay.
Who inspires you in your art?
The person?
Person, thing, whatever. What is your inspiration?
I think the one person that, as I grew, was Grandpa Lockett. He basically was a man that did not lie. He always told the truth. kind of hated him for that because
Oh,
I was
dear.
so used to game and that kind of stuff. But he made me understand what it is to be a man. You know, because he would say, when I graduated from high school, he was not no big gift giver. I graduated from high school. He brought me upstairs. I grew up with like 6 other people. There was 8. There was 8 in the family, so like 7 other people, including myself, would be 8. So he brought me upstairs, and he said, "Son, I taught you how to cook a meal." I said, "Yes, you did." He gave me these unarguable. "I taught you how to save your money. I taught you this and that." All of these things were unarguable. I said, "Yes, yes, yes." He said, "Well, I guess you're a man now, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I guess I am, huh? You can go out there and make a living for yourself, can't you?" I said, "Yeah, no, sure can." He said, "Reach up under that bed. I gave you a gift." I said, "You gave me a gift?" Oh, I reached up under it, and there was a suitcase.
Paul, was he trying to tell you it's time for you to go?
He said, "Listen, son, I don't raise men. You said you was a man. I raise boys." He said, it's time for you to go. You're a man now."
Oh my goodness.
I hated that at the time.
I know you did.
But I realized how much he said that he and his wife gave us.
Mm-hmm.
And he was developing us to leave. You don't develop people to stay, you develop
Them to go, yes.
Your children are supposed to represent you.
Yep.
You know, and I realized later what he was really all about. He was a truth teller. He was an extraordinary working man. He'd come in every day, read the newspaper, and fall asleep. And one of the things he said to me, Paul, he said, "I made it with what I got." And he said, "You got something I didn't have." I said, "What's that?" He said, "You got a high school education."
Oh,
He valued that.
yes, he did.
You know, the education. He couldn't read. He would sit there with the
Newspaper open?
and he'd read it, and he would ask one of us, he said, "Paul, what's that word?" And he taught himself how to read. He said, "What's that word?" I said, "That's such and such." He goes, "Richard, what's this word?" Said, "Tell me what it means in the sentence." He told him what it means, and said, "I thank you," and he'd keep on reading.
Oh my gosh, wow.
That is. He was determined to be not only educated, but to show you what a man, his frailties, you know, his shortcomings. You know, there's a saying that says, you can't heal unless you reveal. And that's one of the things that he said to us, all of us.
You can't heal unless you reveal. Mm-hmm. That's a new one for me. I have to tell that to my daughter. She didn't know that yet.
The truth is the truth. You reveal the truth within yourself. That's a part of the healing process. Right.
This has been Artists of Color. I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host for this afternoon, and my guest has been Paul Goodnight, image maker and artist extraordinaire, nationally and international. He has work right now on the Blue Hill Avenue side of the Grove Hall area of Roxbury. You should go up and see it. It's an amazing piece, and I would suggest you all get in touch with him or go to his studio at 791 Tremont Street in Boston, actually in Roxbury. We have had a great afternoon and a great conversation. Again, I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and this has been Artists of Color.